The lonely road, October 18 to 3 p.m. Wide shot. A silver Nissan slowly drives through a remote mountain road. Wind and birds fill the silence. Nader, voiceover, calm tone 3 days off before the wedding. I always said I love peace and quiet, but maybe this time I need it to think, to breathe. Phone buzzes, message from his friend, Tamer, text. If you really want to clear your head, this cabin's perfect. Keys under the stone by the door. Enjoy it, groom-to-be. As dusk settles, Nader finds himself winding deeper into the forest, where the road seems to whisper promises of solitude. The towering pines cast long shadows, leaning in like silent spectators. He reaches the cabin, a rustic shelter with age-worn wood and a roof shingled in overgrown moss. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and damp earth. Nader retrieves the key and steps inside. The wood creaks beneath his feet. The interior is simple, with wooden furniture that seems as old as time itself. Dust motes dance in the beams of fading sunlight. Night falls, and the silence becomes absolute. No hums of civilization, no echoes of humanity. Just the soft murmur of the wind against the windows. Yet, an unsettling sensation of being watched creeps over him. The next morning, Nader wakes to find the back door ajar, swinging gently. A slightly frayed rope trails into the suffocating woods. Shivering, he decides to investigate. Quick cuts between Nader's pale face and the looming trees that retreat further into darkness as he proceeds. Something feels awry, a persistent vibration in the air, the uncanny sensation of the forest breathing around him. Suddenly, eyes, not human, emerge from the shadows. Luminous orbs fixate on him, cutting through the twilight. In that instant, the cabin's promised silence screams its warning. He stumbles backward, running back to the cabin. Slamming the door shut, Nader is alone again, listening to his own erratic breath. Texts come in from friends, but he ignores them, trapped between leaving and staying. The darkness outside is full of whispers. Night unveils its terrors. Knocks reverberate on the walls, gentle at first, then relentless. Nader's heart races. The climax arrives with a final whisper. Join us. October 18 to 5:30 p.m. Nader parks in front of the cabin, stepping out of his car into the crisp autumn air. The cabin looks rustic yet somehow freshly cleaned, an oddity in the dying woods surrounding it. He notices the door particularly, shining with an inexplicable gleam. Nader mutters to himself about Tamer's description. Tamer said basic. This looks like someone cleaned it 5 minutes ago. He half expects to walk in on someone tidying. His eyes are drawn to a crooked wooden sign affixed just beside the entrance. The letters, carved roughly in pencil, read, Cabin 13, they never forget it. Nader smirks at the sign, his curiosity momentarily overtaken by amusement. Creepy names? Nice touch, he laughs to himself, disregarding the sinister implications of the words. He approaches the cabin, feeling the wind shift slightly, carrying with it an unsettling whisper among the leaves. As he reaches the door, he pauses, half expecting to hear voices or find another sign. The forest is eerily silent, only the occasional rustle breaking the solitude. He opens the door, its hinges creaking ominously despite the cabin's clean appearance. Inside, the air feels stagnant, heavy with the dust of forgotten memories. Shadows play tricks with his mind, shifting with the setting sun. Nader shrugs off the anxious feeling creeping over him. These are just the nerves of solitude in unfamiliar surroundings. The cabin's main room is sparsely furnished, yet there's an oddness to the placement of objects. A single chair stands in the middle, facing a darkened window, a window that only reflects the bleakness outside, offering nothing of the warmth usually associated with these autumn retreats. Nader's heart skips a beat. He takes a deep breath and ventures further inside, where the shadows seem to cling more closely. Unbeknownst to him, the legend of Cabin 13 isn't about creepy names. It's a tale of the forgotten, of souls that linger, left behind by the living. Every creak of the wooden floor under his feet seems to echo more loudly, whispering warnings from the past. 2:11 a.m. Nader wakes to faint scratching on the front door. It's the kind of sound that doesn't belong, the type that makes hair stand on end. He hesitates, ever so briefly, before inching towards the sound, his heartbeat keeping rhythm within the stillness. With caution, he pulls the door open. The night air is dense, almost suffocating. A quick scan reveals nothing but the usual disarray of the forest beyond. But there, on the counter, a piece of paper hangs limply from a nail on the back door. Nader squints to read the faded scribbles. "Don't worry, just an old fly buzzing." He scoffs, shaking his head. "What kind of dumb joke is that?" he mutters under his breath before tossing the note to the floor. Annoyed but undeterred, he crawls back under the warmth of his sheets. Sleep courts him almost instantly, yet the unsettledness lingers, a ghost in the shadows. Minutes feel like hours, and then he hears it, the slow, dragging steps overhead. Heavy and deliberate, they shuffle like a silent threat sent to unsettle the very core of him. There's a final thud, an assurance of something, and then silence. It's that silence that brews anxiety, an unseen force gripping at the chest. Fear gnaws at Nader until it propels him from the bed once more. This time, armed with a flashlight that promises safety through illumination, he steps cautiously outside. Nothing stirs but the whisper of the wind through trees. Yet, his eyes trail to the cabin's edge, where an ominous sign lies etched. A long scratch marks the wood, deliberate and hauntingly suggestive of a claw rather than anything human. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled as he traced the mark with trembling fingers. Deep in the forest, a rustle whispers danger to him, like an unfinished conversation. He turns back to the cabin, but relaxation is a distant memory, for nightmares feel too close to reality this first night. Nader had come to the remote cabin in the woods, originally seeking solitude, after Tamer had assured him it was the perfect place to disconnect and escape the urban chaos. But as his phone displayed zero signal, not even SOS, he chuckled to himself. Tamer forgot to mention the cult vibes, huh? He mused. That morning, as Nader wandered around the property, he noticed an old well that had long been collapsed. Surrounding it was a circle outlined in white chalk. Upon closer inspection, symbols were etched onto the stones, symbols that whispered secrets of ages past. Intrigued but unnerved, Nader returned to the cabin, his curiosity piqued but his heart thumping with a growing sense of dread. Inside, as he opened the closet doors, a dusty journal fell to the floor. He picked it up, wiping away years of dust and grime to reveal a name. Imad Abdulrazak, 1987. He flipped through its brittle pages, feeling the ghost of the mind that had once scribbled its thoughts. Across the journal, a single line was repeated like a mantra. I'm not alone in this cabin. Every night, the voices get closer. The eyes show up in the mirrors after 2 o'clock. Suddenly, the light in the cabin flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced upon the walls. Nader's spine tingled with fear as his eyes inadvertently met the mirror in front of him. What he saw forced the blood in his veins to run cold, a pair of disembodied eyes staring back at him, as if the journal's forewarning had come to life. Frozen in place, Nader could feel the cabin's air grow heavy, burdened by the weight of those unyielding eyes. He quickly looked away, breathing heavily, his mind racing. He needed to leave, but an inexplicable force seemed to hold him hostage, a sinister whisper of wind and shadow keeping him from the door. The realization hit him that the cabin was more than just a building, it was alive, and it wanted him to stay. Nightfall was approaching, and with it, the unspeakable horror that was buried within the echoes of those walls. With every tick of the clock, the cabin's cursed history beckoned him deeper into its maelstrom of madness. The clock ticks past midnight, but sleep avoids Nader like a specter in the darkness. The house is silent and still, yet his eyes remain fixed on his reflection. Sweat glistens on his forehead as he scrutinizes the mirror in search of an anomaly his mind insists on conjuring. The digital clock blinks a sinister 2:17 a.m., casting its hellish red hue over the room. The glow should be comforting, a beacon in the nighttime void, but tonight it feels accusing, a reminder that he is awake and alone. Then a flicker. In the mirror, a shape forms behind Nader, looming with unnatural stillness. He spins around, heart pounding, dread dragging his limbs, but the room is empty, barring his racing breath. The feeling of being watched suffuses the air like a rotten miasma. Just as he convinces himself it was a trick of the light, a sound slithers through the silence, a voice, raspy as dry leaves, emanating from the depths of the shadow-clad closet. Go down the basement. Nader stands paralyzed, his every instinct screaming at the wrongness of what he's heard. Nope, he mutters, his voice trembling despite his attempt at bravado. I'm not doing some horror movie crap. I just wanted peace. But peace is elusive, and reality has a vindictive way of asserting its dominance. As he steps back, something catches his foot. He stumbles, fear snapping down his spine as he crashes to the floor. His eyes fall on the culprit, a kitchen knife, where there had been none. The blade glints under the accusing light, its surface marred with dried mud. The basement, October 20th. Morning. Nader knew something was off the moment he entered the room, a nagging unease that hung in the air, whispering of secrets beneath the ordinary. Brushing aside a thick rug, his heart skipped as he discovered a trapdoor, its hinges encrusted with rust and decay. It beckoned like an abyss, daring him to descend. He hesitated, fingers trembling as he grasped the handle, pulling open the door to reveal a steep, narrow staircase leading into the void. Each step creaked underfoot, echoing the rhythm of his anxiety as he descended into darkness. In the gloom below, shapes gradually materialized, a forest of outdated televisions, their small screens flickering like hungry eyes. Nader's breath hitched in his throat as he recognized the scenes displayed. Each screen held a different version of himself, slumbering in the bed upstairs. The same tousled hair, the same furrowed brow, infinite reflections of his own reality, captured from every conceivable angle. What the hell? His voice trembled, barely escaping his lips. That's me. That's all me. As the dread seeped into his bones, a ghostly voice, fragile and distant, threaded through the stale air. It seeped in from a near TV speaker, wrapping around him like a shiver. I was number 6. What number are you? Time suspended. The words were a riddle he couldn't comprehend, an accusation he couldn't deny. His mind scrambled for reason, for understanding, but found only terror and disjunctive fragments. How could this basement harbor infinite slumbers of his own self? What bizarre reality had he stumbled upon where duplicates dreamed? Alone in the darkness, Nader stood encircled by these specters, each slumbering twin eternally apart, yet eerily synchronized. Till then, had these dreams all belonged to Nader? Or had the room only reached out today, peeked through time and indexed his nameless copies? Nader's pulse raced as he recoiled, tracing back his steps, unsure if he could escape the basement's embrace. He had unwittingly stepped into a continuum bereft of exit, inhabited by endless confusion and paralytic fear. With one last glance at the ghostly lineup, he fled back, ascending the creaky stairs. But the whisper followed him continually. What number are you? Would he ever find the answer, or was this entrapment the answer itself? Destiny embroiled in infinite cycles, where discovering was only discovering endless dread. There was not a soul who could escape the lurking shadows of the haunted woods of Bernstein. Nader, known for his skepticism, was about to experience a truth that would unravel the very fabric of his disbelief. It was a stormy night when Nader decided to explore an abandoned cabin hiding deep in those woods. The whispers among the locals about its dark past were too intriguing for his incredulous heart. As he reached the cabin, his first instinct was to leave, but the roads twisted and turned, always leading him back to the cabin's doorstep no matter which path he chose. It was as if the woods had stitched a trap in the fabric of reality. The rain began as a slow drizzle, but soon turned into a fierce deluge, pouring solely upon Nader. Seeking refuge, he dashed beneath the trees only to hear footsteps mirroring his every move, a constant echo in the heart of the woods. With every step deeper into the woods, Nader's unease grew. It was then that he stumbled upon a photograph half buried in the mud. A wedding photo. He carefully cleaned the mud that smudged the image, revealing a bride's radiant smile. He felt a pang of familiarity, but it was his own countenance, a blur, a shadowy void, that sent shivers down his spine. The truth began to unfold as he frantically attempted to recall the events surrounding that joyous day, his wedding day. To his horror, a figure emerged from the shadows mimicking his every move, a ghastly replica of himself, whispering secrets of a forgotten past. And inside the cabin, beneath the dim light, a diary lay open on a dusty table. Nader realized then that leaving was no longer an option. October 21 to 3 a.m. Nader stares into a large mirror. His reflection doesn't follow, it speaks. Reflection. Think a wedding can erase your past? You buried what you did, but this place remembers. Nader, shouting, I'm not a number. I'm not one of them. I'm Nader. He smashes the mirror. Screams explode from it. The cabin shakes. White light floods the screen. Blackout. The morning. October 22 to 7 a.m. Nader wakes on the same couch. Everything looks like day one. Clean. Silent. He finds a letter on the table. Note: if you're reading this, the cabin chose you. He walks out, finds the road open, gets in his car, starts driving. But in every mirror, he sees himself smiling. Only he's not smiling. The moth-eaten curtains fluttered gently against the moonlight, casting eerie shadows across the room. Sarah sat slumped on the creaky rocking chair, her fingers gripping the edges like a lifeline. The cabin was dead silent, save for her ragged breathing. The silence used to be her solace, a refuge from the cacophony of the world beyond. Now it felt oppressive, a throbbing echo of the things she feared most. Her husband's words had cut deeper than any knife, and she thought she could escape them by hiding away in the secluded haven of Cabin 13. But the quiet didn't comfort, it judged. Tonight, the moon was full, bathing the room in its cold glow. Sarah shivered, feeling the icy fingers of dread skitter down her spine. She didn't believe in ghosts, yet she knew there was something more to the shadows that danced in the corners of the room. It started with a creaking sound. At first, it was just the wind, she told herself, but it grew louder, closer, until it seemed to pulse in rhythm with her own racing heart. She clutched the armrest tighter, her breath catching painfully in her chest. Then she saw it, her own reflection, but twisted, garish, staring back at her from the dark mirror across the room. Her twin in shadow, smirking, eyes hollow and accusing. Sarah shut her eyes tight, tried to drown out the absurdity with sense.